Okay, yeah, today we're going to be battling the battery box. Let's see where we are. Let's get this turned around. Left these things in here last night. All right. Okay, this is what's here so far. Something that's critical when you're doing this is you need this kind of bit extension. I got a 12-inch because getting in here to get these out, they're very, it's very long. In addition to that, I've got a right angle bit that you've seen in my other videos to get these screws here on the bottom. So basically, I've had this out, or I've disconnected this whole thing. I just put one screw in here so I could travel short term, but it won't clear this piece of wood. So I need to get this piece of wood out. So I took about a dozen screws out of here for the door. So I got the door off, and I took. You can see there's 12 screws, 6 on each side that have to come out, which I did. Which I use this to get in here to reach all the screws that are on the bottom and on the back end. Just to loosen this up. So the next step is I got to get this piece of wood out. So I've got 4 screws here out, but as you can see, this won't budge. So I've got this small, it's really a molding crowbar that I'm going to try and work in here and pull this up. You can see this back here is that laminated board, which I suspect is the kickboard for the sofa. So this really just needs to be bolted to the back there. I think there's, yeah, if you can see, 4 screws along the back. You know, normally I would think that would be all it would take, but knowing Pleasureway, there's something else. So let's get into it. There we go. Okay, screws are out. So now Now that I figured out the correct way of getting these things out, they just kind of twist it. You just got to twist it around and twist it again. Done. Okay. And so now, gotta get that out. Nice storage compartment. Thing is, there's a little L bracket back there, and along with the 4 screws up top. So I'm just going to use the plan of I'm just going to remove every screw I can find, and then see what budges and what doesn't. All right. Just as we're making progress here. Before I just want to mention, before I go into it, I've turned the battery off, and I've got the hard disconnect off, and I've also disconnected my solar input, so there's absolutely no power in here as I'm doing this. But so right now I've got all the screws out. So the screws along here, I've taken a screw off that corner, I've taken the screws out of the floor, taken these 4 screws out here, and those are all the ones that I can find that are actually screwing into something. So it's still not budging. I mean, I can tip it a little bit, but what I'm thinking is there's this kind of a rubbery gasket thing here. I'm betting that this is double-sided taped down. So I also noticed right along here, I think this is actually the bottom of the box, or actually no, this is double stacked half-inch. This is the lower half, this is the upper half, and I think these are, you can see the little rubber gasket right down here. I'm pretty sure this is all kind of glued down in addition to screwed down to the base. So my next step is to get a blade underneath here and see if I can separate this. Now what I'm going to try and do is lift this up a little bit, because I want to get the box loose so I can move it out a little bit, because if you look underneath, all the wires in here are all screwed down individually with these tie downs with screws, and there's many straps in here. Yeah, talking about, you know, using too many screws in something. But so I really would like to pull this box out a bit so I can get easier access to those and unscrew them all from the top of the box, and that would enable me to, you can see them all back in here. In here, these are all my wires. These are just zip tied. Easier to get them out at this stage. So that'll be the next step. So I'm gonna see if I can unstick the box by getting underneath and loosening up this double-side tape. It's all around. I need to start prying up this gasket, and the only thing I can think of is they reused this design from their older AGM battery design, where you needed to be sealed off from the main cabin because of outgassing when the AGMs get charged. So they did a really good job of sealing this up. It's a sealed box. They've got a vent the outside here and a vent right here, so there was sufficient airflow. This is all sealed all along the edges here for the door, so it made a perfect seal. But you don't need to seal the lithium-ion batteries. So hence the battery box for a lithium-ion is a bit overkill, but it is a nice cabinet. They did a great job building it. And so I'm just going to pick away at this slowly and try and get it out as intact as I can. So basically what I just did was I took this knife and I scored right along this area all the way along, and then I just took and lifted up on this, and you can see here, I'll take I can now lift this whole thing up and out. You see the gaps coming out. So this is now loose. So the next step here is going to be, I need to start unclamping the wires back here. I don't know if you can see it well enough, but all the cables that they've got coming in here from underneath the ottoman are screwed down with these little cable ties. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, here. All these, there's basically 3 or 4 per length of cable that I'm going to have to reach and get out. So what I'm going to do is pull this box out as far as I can, and then unstrap all those wires, and then I'll be able to take. Essentially, I need to shut the power off and take the battery out, remove everything up here, then get the box out, and then start rewiring to the back. So. Here's the progress so far. Got the box loose. I had to take a ton of screws out. All of these are just from these cable tie downs. There was a ton of them in here. I think you didn't need the 20 screws holding the adhesive holding the box down. I think those wires could have held it down all by itself. But there we go. So we got it out. I'm gonna lift the box out. Then next step, gonna take some of those wires and push them to the back and just cable tie them to the back. And then I'm going to take this out. This is actually a spider control shunt, and the electrical board is here, and it's held in by 4 screws. So I'm just going to lift this whole panel out, and I'm going to mount it on a board along the back here and build a cover for it. So I'm going to basically reuse these bus bars and these terminal fuses. So I don't have to, change an awful lot in terms of the overall wiring. And I'll hook this shunt back up so I get the voltage and current display on the digital screens in the cabin. So okay, just wanted to give you a look at what it looks like so far. Quite a mess. Not for the faint of heart. All right, let's get to cleaning up and starting to wire it back in. We're making good progress. Just a quick checkpoint. So obviously I've got the battery box out, and what I just did was I made this board, and I put a mount for the bus bar and shunt that Pleasureway had on top of their original battery box. So I put a 3/8 inch board back here, so I'm not drilling a lot of holes into the Pleasureway kick plate, and they've already drilled tons of holes on it. So I'm going to mount all the components now on this board. So I'll have a couple of cutoff switches right here, one for the solar alternator and one for just a general battery cutoff. I'm going to put a central battery fuse in here as well, just extra protection, and then everything will be kind of wired in. What was already wired before here we'll just cover over. Here's the spider will get connected here. The solar is going to get routed, solar over here. It's going to get routed over here to the cutoff switch and then back in here. So this is along the rear of the coach. So another revelation I had earlier today was I'm not going to put the battery where the battery box was. Instead, if I get I'm going to load the battery this way, and that does a couple things for me. So essentially, that'll be the configuration. The first battery would be here, second battery goes right here, and this can come forward a little bit to give me a little space back there for wiring and that little electrical box. I had to wire this here because the length of cable that is available on the Pleasureway connections just reach here. So I had to do this, and then what I also have is a little cover for this here. So I put a little piece on the top in case anything falls down from the sofa, and then there's a piece that screws in each one of these points that'll protect all that wiring. The other thing I did today, I don't know if you can see it, is I ran the larger wiring for the 3000 watt inverter. So this is going to replace the two yellow wires, which are 12 gauge, good for 20 amps. The orange is good for a 30 amp circuit. So that's all run end to end. I haven't wired it up yet, but that'll be coming. So that's where I am. I've got hopefully maybe a couple hours more, and I can get this wired up and get the battery back in. Still have to figure out what I'm going to do about a carpet here, but you can see how much additional storage I've got now. So the battery kind of tucks in over there. You can see on the floor here all the space that was taken up by the battery before. Now that's all open up. So I have square storage, not a jag that I had before. Obviously all these cables are going away. They're just coiled up waiting to be wired up. So now I'm just gonna basically I'm gonna run the wires across along this loom and drop them into the battery area. I'll also put a ground bus bar in, and the alternator bus bar will be over here for now until I get the second alternator in. So that's where we are now. So I've got everything from the top of the box now. The top of the old battery box is now along the back here. This is the module that Pleasureway put in that has their positive bus bar and the shunt. I added this. This is a 600 amp bus bar for the grounds, just to clean up the grounds. They didn't have a ground bus bar. And then this is the bus bar I added for the alternator. So this is where the relay underneath the driver's seat terminates and then is routed over to the DC-DC converter. So I had thought of putting the battery kind of along the back here and stack two, because I could get it to where this gray carpet is I put in. That's where the old battery box ended, but because of this, it kind of brought it out a little bit too far. So when I put two on here, it would have come over a little bit too far. But what I'm finding is that by putting it this way, look at the huge amount of storage I have now. That's just unencumbered. These, I have to shorten these wires. I have tools coming on Monday or Tuesday, so I can cut those and reduce the run here, so it'll be much cleaner and up against the wall. And then this is where the old converter connected to charge the battery. I'm not going to install that. Instead, I'm going to complete the inverter charger install in the next couple days, so I'll get the higher charge rate. So, but that's quite a bit of storage compared to what you had with the old battery box in there. So next step is the second battery should be in this next week. So that'll bring that out another 6 inches here. I think you still end up with a tremendous amount of storage that you more than you had before in this space, and it's much more usable. It goes really far back and it's square, so I think it's easier to use. I think this came out very well. I didn't film it, but I ended up putting in the second battery. I was a bit rushed because I wanted to take a trip and I wanted the two batteries in there with me. I knew I was going to run the air conditioner a bunch, so I wanted as much power as I could get in there. But I ended up doing quite a bit of rewiring when I put the second battery in. I was originally thinking that I would just take and locally cross the wires here on top of the batteries and then run single plus and minus to the positive and negative bus bars over in the back here. I decided not to go that way. I did a bunch of research and on balancing the two batteries together. Also, I didn't like the idea of stacking the connections on a single post here. So what I did was I got, I'll probably do another video when I reconfigure some of this, but this is a 600 amp four terminal bus bar from Blue Sea. So I got two more of those, and I put them over and back here. And those two bus bars are the battery bus bars. So I took equal length cables, these are 2-watt cables, and connected them to the positive and negative bus bars. So they're connected behind there on those bus bars. And then I took a single 4-watt cable, plus and minus, to the plus and minus bus bars here. So positive bus bar is behind here, and this is the negative bus bar. And then I have a 300 amp disconnect here, and an additional 350 amp fuse up here to fuse the main line going in. So the other thing I did was I added, this is extra, I don't know if you can see it back here, but I added terminal fuses, 300 amp terminal fuses on the on each of the positive posts of the Lithionics batteries. So I've significantly increased the wire sizes. So 2-watt on the battery, going back to the positive negative battery bus bars in the back, both 600 amp bus bars. And then all the main power lines are 4-watt cable. So that'll cover me for any charging scenario that I put in here. And in about a month, I have an appointment. I'm going to have a second alternator put in that will charge these batteries at 280 amps. So I wanted to make sure that the lines coming into the battery would handle 280 amps. So that would be the 4-watt cable, and then that halves to 140 amps per battery, which the 2-watt cable would be more than enough to handle. So that's, I'm going to leave it here for now. I'll do another video following up on how I'm going to finish this up. But I've got some plywood, finished plywood that I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build a wall along the back to sort of protect and hide the wires. And it'll come along here and along here. So this will be a nice enclosed cabinet area for storage. So that'll, and probably what I'll do is I'll probably surface the plywood with some carpetings, probably the same stuff I used, back here, just to, keep the Pleasureway look and feel. So you won't see the batteries, you won't see the wires, you'll just see a nice carpeted wall going around. That way, this will make a nice trunk area for storage. I won't have to worry about seeing or tripping over the wires. So hopefully that'll dress it up and finish it up. So I'm going to leave it here, and next video I'll cover the inverter install, which incidentally is in right now. So I've also got in here a 3,000 watt Xantrex inverter with a 150 amp charger. So these, so I can charge these batteries up as quickly as possible. That's the largest charger that I could get, within a reasonable design of the power system. So it keeps the wire sizes reasonable. So, all right, that's it. The dual battery Lithionics system.